Let's dive into the DevOps best practices that your organization, start again, 3, 2, 1. Let's dive into the DevOps best practices that your organization should look at. You can think of this as a checklist. First up, we have continuous integration. Continuous integration is the process of automatically testing bugs, making sure that you are able to improve the software quality and reduce the time to, let's say, validate or release a new software update. So that's a critical thing to put into your checklist. Next up is this concept of continuous delivery, right? So the ability to have code change automatically, build and test, and be ready for release into production. It's really an extension of continuous integration, and it means that you can deploy all your changes to a testing environment or a staging environment, and it's automatically done without a human being in the middle of that loop. Next up is microservices. And this one is an interesting one because it's not talked about as much. A lot of times you'll hear only continuous integration or continuous delivery, but microservices are a critical component of DevOps because it means that you can build a single application that has a set of small services. And each service is its own world, and they can communicate with each other through, let's say, a queuing system or some other interface that allows this really robust architecture. So by simplifying each of these services, it really adds a lot of scale, and it's really the modern way that people are doing software development. Infrastructure as code is another best practice that an organization must have. And the reason for this is that it allows you to do continuous delivery. And by checking in the infrastructure itself into, let's say, your Git repository, it allows you to develop automated and repeatable ways of orchestrating the infrastructure. And this allows you to have this speed of delivery that comes with DevOps. Monitoring and logging is an often, let's say, misunderstood or left behind process, but it's one of the most critical things an organization can do as a DevOps best practice. And what it does is it allows you to look at the metrics of an application, look at the infrastructure to see how the CPU load is doing, or the memory, or the disk I/O, and you can get to the root cause much quicker. And then that change can be propagated through continuous delivery. So there's a feedback loop where really it's a data-driven approach. It's got heavy tie-in to, in fact, data science, because you look at the data, you make a decision, and then you do a deployment. Also, communication and collaboration isn't the last thing to think about. It's actually one of the most important things to think about. And what this means is that culturally, your organization is constantly trying to figure out ways to have better communication. That can mean through, let's say, a ticket system or a chat system where people can talk about the different aspects of the source control. Also, you can have these comments in technical documentation. So by making this a priority, you're going to implement DevOps best practices. So really it's the combination of all of these that's a checklist, and you can't leave one of them off. Each one of these things needs to be really in your infrastructure of your organization to do DevOps.